Opposition party says there has been an obvious hijack of the judiciary and the legislature by the executive. Plus, the PDP too has been talking tough. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. It's the day the Supreme Court is giving its verdict, perhaps the very end to all litigation and tussle over the February 25th presidential election in Nigeria, which saw the APC's Bola Tinubu emerge as the winner, declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The candidates of the Labour Party and the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and the APM have since challenged the outcome of that election in court, and that election was affirmed by the trial court, which is the Presidential Election Petition Court, and the appeal was eventually taken to the Supreme Court, which today ruled in favor of Bola Tinubu. Tonight, we're getting one of Nigeria's oldest and the most experienced senior lawyers in the studio to give us an insight into what is. If you ask any lawyer today, they might have their own views. They have either supporting Peter Obi or supporting Atiku Abubakar or supporting Bola Tinubu. But tonight, let's get a little bit of the center of analysis on what really happened, the position of the Supreme Court. Did we expect this to happen? And all of what has happened. Also, we shall be hearing of those who could not get to hear Mr. Julius Abure of the Labour Party, which was broadcast live on Channels Television, his press conference earlier today in Abuja. I'll allow you to listen to what he said today, the full clip of what he said at his press conference. But some of the reactions also coming in. Ebwa Oluwadegboruba Arua has been reacting. He's speaking about INEC and what he thinks INEC has done wrong. The PDP has also spoken. They blamed the Supreme Court on this matter. We'll be hearing and listening to all of those reactions. But first and foremost, before we get deeper into this matter tonight, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
President Bola Tinubu is expected to present the proposed 26.1 trillion naira 2024 budget estimates to a joint session of the National Assembly in the next 2 weeks. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, Senator Olamileko Adiola, made the revelation after the inaugural meeting of the committee in Abuja. He gave assurances that the National Assembly will work towards the passage of the budget before the end of the year. The Senate has confirmed Mr. Musa Aliyu as the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission at the Senate Chamber. The upper legislative chamber confirmed him after a screening session which was held behind closed doors that lasted for nearly an hour. The Senate also confirmed the appointment of Saka Bolaji Suleiman and Professor Gaji Dantata as members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is asking media practitioners to uphold the ethics of the profession and avoid propagating fake news, especially ahead of the off-cycle governorship election. Professor Yakubu said this during a meeting with media executives ahead of the elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states. He also disclosed that about 94 media organizations have been accredited to cover the elections in the states. The People's Democratic Party governorship candidate in Kogi State, Senator Dino Melaye, is assuring residents of the state that his administration will embark on massive infrastructural development in the eastern part of the state if voted as governor. Senator Melaye was speaking at a campaign rally in Angba local government area of the state, where he told his supporters that he will reform the state civil service, improve infrastructure, and create a development economy in the state. And still in Kogi State, the state governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Leke Abejide, is promising massive infrastructure development. Mr. Abejide made the promise during his campaign in Basa local government area of the state. He decries the lack of healthcare facilities in many local government areas and vows to build hospitals if elected as the next governor of Kogi State. The Imo State Governor and APC governorship candidate in the November governorship election, Senator Hope Uzodinma, said the multi-million naira project of dredging the Urashi River and Oguta Lake to the ocean, if actualized, will not only be a legacy project for his administration, but a project that will change the fortunes of the people of all rich communities in Imo State and, by extension, the Southeast region.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get into it. And I'm trying tonight to give you every angle of the coverage of the Supreme Court judgment, the aftermath, and some of the analyses of what really happened as the court today upheld the victory of President Bola Tinubu in the 25th of February 2023 presidential election. The apex court, in its ruling, dismissed the appeals by the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and its Labour Party counterpart, Peter Obi. A 7-judge panel ruled as without merit the opposition appeals over claims of fraud, electoral law violations, and Tinubu's ineligibility to run for president. The apex court thrashed all the grounds of appeal of Atiku and the PDP on qualification, non-compliance with the Electoral Act, the 25% vote in FCT, and electoral malpractices. Of course, we've been getting reactions immediately after the justices of the Supreme Court gave their verdict. It was unanimous, all of them, the 7 members of that bench today, as they ruled in this matter, which has held the breath of a lot of Nigerians waiting, with a lot of anticipation about what could be the outcome of the long-drawn battle since the 25th of February. Now, we got some reactions immediately after that election. Take a listen on the outside of the premises of the court. One of the Labour Party lawyers and one of the spokespersons of the Labour Party presidential campaign, Mr. Okonkwo.
The only paragraph the Supreme Court brought to the notice of the world, which was quite interesting, is that even the Supreme Court agreed that non-uploading of the result on IRA reduced the confidence of the people in the election. I heard it clearly. Meaning that even the Supreme Court agrees that the election was not credible or as credible as it ought to have been if the result was uploaded. So credibility is one of the 3 arms of an election for the people. Free, fair, and credible. Credible means believable. Why shut out the people for the right the law has given unto them? So I was very glad that the Supreme Court pointed it out.
He was not the only person speaking outside of the courtroom, although it was difficult to get a hold of other lawyers in the camp of the PDP. But of course, chieftains of the APC were speaking, and some very senior members of the APC who the court's judgment today were in their favor. Take a listen to them.
To acceptance of this verdict, I urge our colleagues, politicians, to accept it in good faith. And also I have to use this opportunity to congratulate politicians, to congratulate the leaders of the opposition political parties, because it is better for them to resort to judiciary, which they have done so. To congratulate our politicians for resorting to judiciary, and the judiciary has done well. It means that democracy is getting matured in Nigeria, and we are happy with that.
The litigants exercise their rights to go to court, but that has come to an end now. We now have to all come together as one country, one people, and move ahead and take this country where it rightfully should be.
What he said, they have those special status. What he said that in terms of calculating or having the status quo, you must not win FCT before you are declared president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That FCT is like another state. So that you don't need to say, oh, if you don't win FCT, therefore you cannot be declared. That's what he said. In the court here, I don't know where they said APC and PDP. I came here as somebody who's interested, as somebody who wanted the country to move forward. So I congratulate Mr. President, and I think that this has come to the end. No more speculation. So Mr. President can focus and do what he's supposed to do for Nigerians.
All right, you heard them. Those, for the FCT minister, Abdullahi Ganduje, Femba Jabiamela, speaking on the sideline outside of the premises of the court. But of course, the president himself has been reacting to this. I mean, it's a happy day for him, for someone who this is his third time of winning on the same battle. First, he won at the ballot declared by INEC on the 25th of February. He won at the Presidential Election Petition Court, then in September, and now he's won again here in October at the Supreme Court. Of course, leaders of the APC immediately found themselves, and of course, not sure. See, that is the governor of Bayelsa State, Doyodiri, who is also there, obviously congratulating him. So let me allow you to listen to what President Bola Tinubu had to say about his victory this time around. A third time, is he lucky or a winner?
The judgment of the Supreme Court put a stop to shenanigans, put a stop to innuendos, put a stop to lies or trap in the media and public place. The court has demonstrated indivisible commitment to rule of law and humanity, and their commitment to do justice for all Nigerians, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other biases. We've concentrated on pulling Nigeria from the good trap of depression. And we understand the sovereignty of the country. You don't need additional distraction to be able to concentrate on building a new economy. A challenge of this nature and a future of this nature is more work and more hard work, more dedication. It just appeal to the sense of patriotism of Nigeria to have a change of mindset. Let us be positive about our country, be ready to contribute in all ways possible. There's no promise of El Dorado from day one. We're all in this boat of diversity. A member of the same family, living in the same house, but stay in different rooms. And it is important that we recognize that we have no other country but this one.
Of course, the opposition is not happy. The PDP has been reacting to this matter. The PDP says the Apex Court has disappointed Nigerians. And of course, a senior lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, Ebolu Adegborua, has also been reacting to this. He has said that INEC has disappointed Nigerians also because it's made promise, but it has not fulfilled it in his transmission of result. Of course, the leadership of the Labour Party, the national chairman, Mr. Julius Abure, has been, he addressed the press today in Abuja. Allow you to listen for those who did not catch or what he said, of course. All what he said is on our YouTube page at Channels Web, and you can watch all of what Mr. Julius Abure, the national chairman of the Labour Party, said. But I'll allow you to listen. It's about almost 7 minutes long of the clip so that you can make sense of the party, the Labour Party's stance on this matter. The Labour Party has said today that this is an obvious hijack by the executive of judiciary and legislature. Here is the stance of the Labour Party. Julius Abure.
We have chosen to trudge on and to remain optimistic of what the future holds for the nation. We weep for our institutions that cannot rise to the occasion and courageously defend democracy and the voices of the people. However, there are great lessons to be learned. What transpired in Nigeria since February 25th presidential election is a clear testament that our institutions are not working and that we may be sliding towards dictatorship. It is very clear that the executive and the judiciary have all been hijacked. This is so unfortunate for our democracy, and it is even more for the people of Nigeria. All what our forebearers taught us has been destroyed within a short space of time because of unbridled ambition of the few. The founding fathers fought with their lives to achieve independence for the country. People lost their lives for the struggle to keep our democracy. And all these years, people have been struggling to achieve electoral and constitutional reforms. Regrettably, all these efforts and struggles have been destroyed today. It is also pertinent to put on record that we have it on very good authority that the government have marked some Labour Party key leaders, myself especially, and our leader, our presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi in particular, for vilification in order to suppress the party, suffocate our team, and our goal of a new Nigeria. The planned persecution, intimidation, suppression, and harassment of our leaders using security agencies and all other government institutions will definitely be defended. We therefore call on all our members and the obedient family to be vigilant and brace up for the challenges ahead. The struggle for a new Nigeria will certainly be tortuous and hard. We are also calling on the international community to rise to the occasion to defend democracy in Nigeria. Your voices were loud and clear in condemnation of the outcome of the presidential election. As we approach the next stage of our democratic journey, we call on you to stand by the millions of Nigerians who are already pushed beyond their limits into unnecessary hardship, poverty, and penury. I will take inspiration from what Nelson Mandela said in his book, A Long Walk to Freedom, that every step we take leads us to our freedom. I honestly believe that the struggle for a new Nigeria has just begun, and even the judgment of today is a step towards reclaiming Nigeria. It's a step towards a new Nigeria. Obviously, we will not rest on our oars until that feat is achieved. We will remain resolute, we will remain focused, we will continue the struggle, obviously, must continue, irrespective of the distraction, and I want to say categorically, no amount of people sponsored to distract us that will stop us from expanding our party in terms of membership, in terms of our ideology, propagating it, and so on and so forth. We are going to continue the struggle. We are going to continue to expand the party. We are going to continue to struggle for what we believe in until a new Nigeria is possible. Today, I must state categorically that Nigerians are suffering in the midst of plenty. People have taken power, and the lives of the people have not improved. Today, a dollar is sold for almost 1,500 naira. As we speak today, petroleum product, fuel precisely, is sold for almost 800 naira per liter. People are hungry, people are not in school, Nigerians are out of school. Inflation, as we speak, by December, by figures given by government agencies, will soon hit over 30% rate of inflation. And so you can see that it's not taking power that matters. It is what you do with power. They have taken over government, but yet the standard of Nigerians have continued to deteriorate. So we are here, we are down, and we fear no fall. We'll be focused, we'll remain, we'll stand on the part of Nigerians, the many millions of Nigerians who supported us, who voted for us, which mandate has been stolen. We'll continue to stand for them. We'll continue to remain their voice.
All right, you have heard the reactions. You've heard some of the soundbite outside of the courtroom. You already know what happened in the courtroom. You now know how that particular journey has ended, something that started on the 25th of February. Let's get some analysis and get a sense of what this means into our laws, the bodies of laws, and of course, electoral jurisprudence. I'm being joined tonight by Chief Robert Clark, senior advocate of Nigeria, and perhaps one of Nigeria's oldest or living lawyers practicing. Thank you so much, Chief Clerk, for joining us tonight.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. I know I've spoken to you about this journey and this tussle, the legal journey in the aftermath of the 2023 presidential election. But you're one who had your own view as to the manner in which the Presidential Election Petition Court delivered its judgment. But let me ask you first and foremost, did you see this judgment of the Supreme Court coming especially as a unanimous verdict? All right. I think some technical issues there with the connection. Chief, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you.
Hello, Chief Clerk, can you hear me?
Are you hearing me?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
so my question is, did you see this coming, the judgment of the Supreme Court, in the manner in which it came? It was a unanimous verdict from all the 7 justices of the Supreme Court who sat on that on the bench today. Did you see that judgment coming in that manner?
Of course, definitely. I have seen that was going to be a unanimous judgment, because except, any other matter that might have been brought before the court, all the former matters coming up from the first tribunal sitting were correct and were well treated. The preliminary question of forgery the judgment did not come to me as a surprise. So nothing came to me today as a surprise, because they were all expected as they are.
Okay, so let's begin with that, because that was what the justices, the lead judge in that particular matter ruled on the application by Atiku Abubakar and his lawyers to apply for a fresh evidence, which was brought, the deposition from Chicago, saying that there were some fraudulent actions of forgery, allegations of forgery against President Bola Tinubu. Why do you feel, because they have their own case law to back their own argument, why did you think that fell flat on his face?
Let me be honest with you. In any civil matter, you look at the matter relating to criminal jurisprudence. The law says you have to prove such by, not only the preponderance of evidence, but it must be based on strict proof of facts and, beyond any reasonable doubt. Now, the law is very also clear, and I was not expecting anything different tonight or today, because I am not blaming the lawyers, and that's the last thing I will always want to do. But I am sorry to say that the lawyers, with due respect to them, should have done a better job in this regard. As the Supreme Court said, if you have facts that were available before the trial started and you did not bring them into the trial court, knowing fully well that if you go to the Supreme Court is going to be a court of appeal and not a first instance. Therefore, if you intend to use any evidence in the Supreme Court, you must have ensured that such evidence must have passed through the original jurisdiction of the lower court. You will have seen from the judgment of the Supreme Court that jurisdiction played a very important role in the determination of that matter. The Supreme Court says, look, we lack jurisdiction. By law, we are an appellate court. We cannot take up a new matter that was not canvassed at the lower court. So if you did not canvass a matter at the lower court, and you want the Supreme Court to take the matter as a fresh matter, the obstacles are there for you to meet. So the Supreme Court was very clear that we are not a court of first instance. For us to take up, we must first ensure that we have jurisdiction under the law. And they, surmised and said, look, we do not have that jurisdiction. So jurisdiction played a very important role in the determination of that motion to enable the matter to be brought before them by way of a motion.
Chief Clerk, if this did not see the light of day, the position coming from Chicago, and our court is not able to allow it to stand at this time because of technicalities, because I assume that it's on technical ground that it was knocked out because of timing and because of how evidence should be presented in our law court, especially as the Supreme Court has said, based on its original jurisdiction, it may not be able to entertain it. But then, do you think that this may haunt Mr. Tinubu in the nearest future?
I don't think so, because I would not say the lawyers were indolent, because as the court said, these facts were known to every lawyer within, how will I put it? People who are advising the appellant here. These facts have been with the lower court, not lower court of Nigeria, because it was never brought into the lower court, had been in Chicago or whichever area long time before election started. If you knew you intended to challenge the veracity or the credibility of the papers from Chicago, you had enough time to do that. The law is very clear. You could have brought it at the lower court, allowed it to be tabled, allowed lawyers who have litigated upon it, and a judgment would have been then available upon which you could have brought it to the Supreme Court as an appeal. Then the question of jurisdiction will have been cleared. Therefore, there is nothing, for the President Tinubu to be ashamed of or to fret upon. The problem is that you cannot exercise jurisdictional power except one, the law allows you as an original jurisdiction, which it does not allow, or there are appeals before the Supreme Court.
Chief Clerk, my question is about the criminal statute of limitations in Nigeria. If Atiku Abubakar and his lawyers brought a case of forgery against President Tinubu, and they brought a deposition from the United States claiming that there was a forgery and there were perjury also because of what the president submitted as a document of his certificate to INEC, which they said there are disparity and differences based on the statute of limitations on criminal offense or criminal acts in Nigeria. And that's the reason why I'm asking, could this haunt the president or Mr. Tinubu in the nearest future?
Definitely not within the jurisdictional, conference of the Nigerian courts. Look, let us be honest with ourselves. Lawyers do not manufacture evidence. If evidence is available and they are aware of the evidence, their lawyers should have worked higher than what they have done now to have assembled all these facts. Failure, one, to assemble the facts at all, because they never brought these facts. And bring in these facts now at the time that the courts have, finished with the original matter. Definitely, they should have known that for any court in Nigeria to assume jurisdictional powers in a matter that has been declared sui juris, that has been declared as an election matter, which is governed by its own strict laws. I don't see why they could even think of bringing such a matter in directly to the Supreme Court. Their lapses are so much. They have not done a thorough, and I'm sorry to say this, I am sorry to say this, if not that this is politics we are talking about. No lawyer will be so tardy as to know what the law is, refuse to do what the law says he should do, and still believes that the law on its own can assume jurisdiction in which it is clear that it has no power to do.
So, Chief Clerk, you are saying that, apologies, you are saying that Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi had a chance, but it looks like their lawyers bungled the case. Is that what you're saying?
I am not, with due respect to you, Sheung, I am not saying they fumbled the case. What I am saying is that they have not displayed a good sense of legal practitioners. They knew, and God bless all of us, we don't work for money alone. We work for prestige. We work on the facts, and we ensure that the law, carries the day if it has to. But where the law is not allowed to put its head up in a proceedings, it means there is another law which prohibits their lawyers to have brought in. They know it. They still decided either to please their supporters and allow such a matter to come before the Supreme Court.
So you see a problem of due diligence on the side of the councils?
Sheung, please don't drag me too much in this matter. I will not allow any junior in my chambers, even 1 or 2 years old, to carry such a brief to go and argue in a court when I have looked into all the facts, and the facts are very clear. There's a limitation of time, wherein in election matters, you can or you cannot do certain things. They had the opportunity as a pre-election matter. They never brought it out. They had the opportunity as a matter within a tribunal's case. They never brought it. They are now coming and bringing matters that should have been argued in the lower tribunal, and where the Supreme Court will now be receiving such evidence as an appellate matter and not as an original jurisdictional matter. I am sorry to say the lawyers have not done enough.
All right. We'll do for a break quickly, but before we go on that break, Chief Clerk, I'd like to ask you, there is a recognition, even by inference, from what the very eminent justices of the Supreme Court gave today, which, for example, one of the things that you said, they said, as for the issue of number 4, I'm quoting Justice Okoro now, which has to do with double nomination, which was not in Atiku's appeal. It is the view of this court that this issue having been dealt with by this court cannot allow the matter to be re-litigated in this very court. There must be an end to litigation for us to sit down now and talk about what this man resigned, whether this man resigned or did not resign. When they did fresh primaries to replace him, which we have done before, we are not going to do this again. How do you react to such a statement coming from the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court statement is the law. If once the Supreme Court sits on a matter and takes a decision on a matter, that matter cannot be reopened except by a lower court that is using that matter as reference court in deciding each case. The Supreme Court is quite clear. The issue you are bringing to us on appeal has already been decided upon by us. Now to bring it to us is what I will call judicial rascality by the part of the lawyers. A lawyer is deemed to have been aware of the existence of the judgment the Supreme Court was referring to. Why did they raise it again as an appeal when the matter has been decided upon by the Supreme Court? Do you want the Supreme Court to change its own judgment when it's not the issue before it? I know the Supreme Court can change when it has before it a conflicting judgment. But when such happens, it is not the way and manner the appellant's lawyers have brought it in. They were playing, I don't know what to call it. Maybe the younger ones will tell us what it means in law. But once the Supreme Court decides on a matter, I don't see how any other court can reopen it, or even the Supreme Court can reopen that judgment.
All right.
I am happy. Yeah, go on. I'm hearing you.
I need to go on a break, Chief Clark. But when we come back, I'd like to get your reaction to the position of INEC in all of this matter. In manner in which INEC comported itself and conducted the election, the way and manner the Supreme Court gave its own position on INEC's conduct, the 25% in FCT, issues of election malpractices, qualification matter, non-compliance with the electoral law. All of these issues were brought up. But again, I'd like you to look at the governance issues that are now before us after the end to all of this litigation. Chief Robert Clark, please stay with me. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Chief Robert Clark, a very senior lawyer, has been speaking with us from Lagos. Thank you so much, Chief Clark, for talking to us tonight on the outcome of the Supreme Court. Much anticipated. And a lot of people will say, oh, look, from 1999, the Supreme Court had not removed or upturned the election of any president. So a lot of people will say, oh, maybe they were expecting it. But let's look at the meat, the lesson that we can take out of the Supreme Court judgment of today. For example, the story of IREV and what INEC promised and what the position of the Supreme Court is. So the Supreme Court is invariably inferring that since that is not captured, what is being captured according to the Supreme Court is the manual transmission of result, IREV, is based on the promise and the guideline of INEC, and so it cannot be held responsible. Well, I'd like you to also help give a sense to what some interpretations on that matter. For example, this is what Mr. Ebun Oluwadegborougha, a senior advocate, has said in reaction to that. Adegborougha says, INEC failed Nigerians. And I quote him, he said, the Supreme Court held that failure to uphold election results on IREV leads to loss of public confidence in the electoral process. The court, however, held that such failure will not lead to the nullification of election results. The judgment is sound in law and accords with the relevant statutes on the issue. What then is a penalty for the electoral umpire that failed Nigerians upon his own voluntary undertaking, because INEC is still busy assuring Nigerians that future election results will be transmitted electronically? It is left for the National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act 2022 to give us transparent elections. We cannot continue in this fashion. Leonard, give us a sense of that position. IREV, transmission of result, the position of the electoral law, the Constitution, and the position of the Supreme Court today.
Let me be honest with you, Shehu. If we are not careful in Nigeria, for the next 50 years, trying to build an electoral system in Nigeria will always be a failure with all the laws that we have now. The problem in Nigeria today is not INEC. That is not the problem in Nigeria. The problem in Nigeria is that for one reason or the other, the enabling law, as it is today, will not help the country. For instance, The Constitution says every Nigerian has a right, the freedom to vote. But the same Constitution now says, oh, you can only vote if you are a party member. What freedom has the Constitution given me? I, Robert Clark, cannot contest an election in Nigeria because I don't belong to a political party. When I know that a political party as it exists today in Nigeria is the very basis of all the problems we have. If you do not want to be part of the system, then you don't vote. And if you don't vote, there's nothing you can do. The problem today is that the system we have, except it is vigorously looked into, we will continue for every 4 years to do the same thing we are doing for the next 20 years. I started with this constitution in 1999. Today, 2023, there has been no difference. Every 4 years, we do a roundabout trekking and come back to the same point. We've done about 6 or 7 election petitions, and as you rightly said, no court has turned, or the Supreme Court has never, set aside any election result in Nigeria. Why should they? When the law says whatever the umpire does is by law presumed to be correct. So once the umpire, which is INEC, presents documents to the tribunal and says, oh, I have done my job, these are the results. If you are not happy, then come and challenge me and bring your own result. That is what is happening. We have to look at that aspect first. We have to make sure that INEC should not be given that advantage of presenting documents and sitting down, and the courts have no alternative than to accept them as correct. Now,
so you think that we need to urgently look at, is it the Constitution in that respect or the electoral law? Which one do you think needs an urgent alteration in respect of what you said?
For us not to come back 4 years' time, to come and be talking the same thing that we are doing today, we must amend the 1999 Constitution to remove that section that says to be able to contest an election, you must belong to a political party. You see, the problem in Nigeria today are the political parties. They are the people that are causing all this problem. Do you know how many cases come pre-election matters, election matters, post-election matters? They have been created by the politicians who drafted the Constitution, so that the same scenario will continue to happen every 4 years. The problem is not with INEC. The problem is not because you and I are Nigerians. No. The problem is in the system that allows you and I to manipulate it. Most of what is happening today is the manipulation. No matter how good INEC is, no matter how presentable their papers are, once Nigerians like you and I, who are all crooks, don't let any Nigerian come and tell me that it's not a crook. Every Nigeria today, we are all crooks. We are spoiling our country.
Clark,
and if we don't stop, yes, please.
Some of us are not crooks, sir.
I know. Okay, I'm sorry. That's why I didn't mention any name, so that nobody will sue me. You see what I mean? Are you Mr. You? Are you Mr. You?
Some of us are legitimately trying to do the right things every day.
I cannot say, I, Robert Clark, I'm legitimate. If I have a system that allows me to dip my hand and take away the country's money and nobody queries me, I am clean. So what I'm saying, Sheung, is that the law that we operate is the problem we have. And if we don't sit down and change the law and make sure that the law, and that is what allows other countries to look better than us. It is because the law is there. Because I, as Robert Clark, in my local government, I cannot contest election. Then I see somebody who has been doing every Jankara method, comes and asks for vote. Once he belongs to a political party, they bring him in. So we have to change the constitution that allows you and I.
All right. Chief Clark, there's another issue that I'd like you to help us with tonight, and it's based on the reaction of the PDP. They are very aggrieved. They think that the Supreme Court erred. They do not agree with the Supreme Court stand on this matter. This is what the PDP said today, and I quote, Nigerians earnestly expected the Supreme Court to uphold and defend the clear provisions of the 1999 Constitution in terms of qualification and minimum requirement for a winner to be declared in a presidential election in Nigeria, especially with regards to the required statutory 25% of votes in the FCT, as well as issues of violation of electoral rules and guidelines, brazen manipulations and alterations of election results by the APC. Nigerians are still at a loss as to how the Supreme Court condoned the serious issues of forgery, falsehood, and perjury on the altar of technicalities. The PDP is saying that Apex Court has failed Nigerians.
With the greatest respect to all of them in the PDP, it's a very big, sweeping statement they have made against the Supreme Court, and they need to apologize. Because if there is a provision in any law and you as a political party fail to take cognizance of those laws and you just want to bypass anything like we all Nigerians do and try to cut edges, and then if you are not allowed, then you say, oh, the umpire is partial. If Atiku knew that Tinubu had forged the document 20 years ago, when he and Tinubu were together, contesting elections here and there. And now, 20 years thereafter, you are now bringing that document and saying this man, and you didn't even bring it to the tribunal. You now waited and went straight to the appellate court to produce that document. And the appellate court told you that, oh, look, I am not an original the court. I am an appellate court. Go to the proper route and then go and do what you are doing. And you say, I have done you bad. No, 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 no. The parties should sit down, reorganize themselves, get good hands to look after their affairs, get better people who can seek out information for them. Because if you don't bring a matter to the court will not help you. The court is not a Father Christmas. If Atiku had Tinubu's dossier 20 years ago and did not bring it and now wants to blame the Supreme Court, I think they are overblowing, everything. We are not all fools. Let them do their work well first. Once they do their work, then we may join them in fighting on their behalf. But on the matter of this appeal, the PDP has no point at all. They didn't do their homework before coming to the court.
What about the grievance of the Labour Party, Chief Clark? I mean, there are those who believe in the Labour Party that their mandate has been stolen by Bola Tinubu and the APC.
What has been stolen? Is it by electoral decision? The Labour Party never won the election on any grounds. They did not have the highest votes. They did not have the votes of all 25% of all the 36 states. Then what has been stolen? You cannot steal what you don't have. They can only steal from you if you own it.
All right.
So you will see
Chief
with
Clark,
me.
yeah, I'd like you to help us wrap up and in this manner. Now, one thing is certain. Peter Obi has lost. Atiku has lost. Tinubu has won. That is how much the Supreme Court has told us. And it's the final court of the land, the apex court in our country. And the verdict is as strong and as solid as the Rock of Gibraltar. Part of the statement of the Supreme Court today. Then we need to, in the next 4 years, Tinubu remains the president of Nigeria. If you are not happy, you wait for the next 4 years. That seems to be the inference of the Supreme Court. But then he has the burden to run Nigeria to the interest of Nigerian people and run it well. What will you be saying to him tonight for those who believe that things are terribly difficult in this country and things are going south and he needs to wake up? What would you say to him tonight?
If I were in a position to talk to him, because I've never face-to-face talked to Tinubu before, I will have told him that he should forget all the cries of the opposition, because it does not take away from the decision of the Supreme Court. What he has to look forward to immediately is how to rectify and find a solution to the economic problems Nigeria has. And like every other problem that we have in Nigeria today, these politicians have caused it. Nigeria was not like this before we had the 1999 Constitution. It is the 1999 Constitution that has given so much power to these politicians to do what they can do with impunity. And that's what they have been doing since 1999, starting from the first regime of Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, and all of them. They've taken the country as if it's their personal property. So what I'm going to tell Tinubu, that it is no more a riding this thing for politicians. He has to stand up, talk to his colleagues, that Nigeria has a great problem and it must be solved.
All right.
Fortunately, I have followed his antecedents. And I think he's, out of all those who contested this election, if I had the opportunity to, I would have voted for him. Because I believe, and I honestly do say so, that Nigeria will change very soon. And I think he is the man that is going to change Nigeria.
His mantra is renewed hope. And he seems to have hope in Bola Tinubu. For now, we need to hold on to that hope and hoping that he will do best and good by Nigerians, because expectations are on his shoulder, because things are really difficult in this country today. Well, thank you so much, most sincerely. Thank you tonight, Chief Robert Clark, perhaps one of Nigerians' senior lawyers and oldest that I know, senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, and I appreciate your knowledge that you've shared with us.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, Chief Clark. Thank you so much. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.